Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of O365Eh. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about going to Ignite 2018 this year. So the team's going to discuss some sort of tips and tricks and from previous experiences, along with some of the sessions that we're interested in, and maybe some ideas for yourselves as well. So maybe Dino, you can start us off.
Yeah, sure, a bit appropriate because this is going to be, believe it or not, my first time going to Ignite. So I'm extremely looking forward to it. And a couple of things that I'm interested in for sure. I'm going to be guest blogging Carolyn Blanding's session on troubleshooting Microsoft Teams, which is a 300 level sort of quasi deep dive into troubleshooting Teams. So I believe that's scheduled for the Friday, September 28th around noon, but I'm hearing that times might be changing on some of the sessions, so keep an eye on that. Another session I'm looking forward to checking out is understanding media flows in Microsoft Teams, which is also on Friday with Cornel Bullens. So a couple of session tidbits there. And, for me, again, I guess the networking opportunity is going to be incredible at this event. I mean, basically all the Microsoft people you might be following and non-Microsoft people and any of the communities that you might be affiliated with are going to be at Ignite, and that's going to be your opportunity to possibly connect with them. So I would encourage people to reach out and try to make a point of meeting these people and just saying hello and putting a name to a face. And then, lastly, I would say, go to a session that's out of your subject matter expertise. Like, if you're into a different topic, like I might go see an Exchange session or a SharePoint session and see if I find something else that might be interesting. So just try to do something outside your comfort zone. And with that, I'll pass the baton back.
I guess I'll take it.
I guess it'll go back to Hab, yeah.
I'm excited as well. I've been going for the last few years, along with Michael and Curtis. I'm really excited for this year. I know there's a lot of discussion on the migration path from Skype to Teams. I'm also speaking at one of the sessions as well, which is called Deciphering Delegation, 9 Things You Should Know, which is on Thursday at 10:45 in Expo Theater 8. In addition to that, there's a couple of the sessions that I was interested in as well. So there's the designing your path from Skype for Business to Teams from a voice perspective. And then there's also the Microsoft Teams architecture update. So last year they showed how the Teams architecture was set up and how it functions. So I'm really interested to see how the new additions have come into play, when it comes to direct routing and the live events functionality that has come out. So, I guess maybe I should also say that we're all 4 of us are also working at the Microsoft Teams and Skype for Business booth. So pop by and say hello. And from that, I'll say wear comfortable running shoes, and I'll pass it along to Curtis.
Good advice, Habib. Yeah, so I've been to several Ignites now and long list of tech heads. And one of the things I always find challenging, especially at Ignite, it's such a big conference and there's so many great sessions, it's trying to figure out what to go to. And it's so big, the logistics of getting from one session to another is always difficult. So what I like to do, did this last year, did a little more, is there's 1 or 2 areas at Ignite that are dedicated to just showing live sessions, like streaming them. And I think there's about 16 different big screens, and you can sit there with headphones and just pick the session you want to listen to. And that's really good for if there's 3 or 4 that you want to see, but you're not sure which one. This allows you to quickly sort of session surf, and drill into the one that actually ends up being most interesting. So on the Microsoft Teams and Office 365 front, there's so many areas that people are interested in, that's a good way to sort of weed out the best session, if you will. And they usually have the big screens in front of a nice, relaxing chair or beanbag, so that helps.
And I think that's near the tech community booth, right? Usually?
There's usually one of them near a tech community. I don't know how it's set up this year, but yeah, it's usually near there. And yeah, from a team's perspective too, you know, a lot of people have questions. Maybe they're starting their transition from Skype for Business or nearing the end. So as Habib mentioned, I think stopping by the booth in the expo hall is always a great way to get answers to very specific questions. And likewise, there's team sessions for almost every specific part of Teams people have interests in or questions about. So check those out. And one other tip too is just specifically more for Office 365, but it's related to Teams. A lot of organizations are sort of struggling with this hybrid scenario where they have processes and procedures for controlling groups on-prem, but now in the cloud, applications like Teams and Yammer are creating Office 365 groups just in the cloud, so they're wondering how to manage it. So there's one or two sessions around just doing that. One in particular is called Best Practices for Managing Your Office 365 groups. So check that out if it's a challenge for your organization. With that, I'll pass it over to Michael.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so this is my fourth Ignite. I never actually had the opportunity to go to a tech ed, so I can't really compare tech ed to Ignite. I did go to like the Skype and Link conferences prior to that. I always make the same mistake every year. Is like once schedule builder is released, I go in and search for Teams, search for Skype, and add all sessions to my calendar. And then you look at your calendar and there's 4 or 5 sessions at the same time block. So you have to be diligent in how you build out your schedule. You can't just, expect if you're focused on Teams to be able to see all the team session. And it's even worse if you're a generalist. How do you, lay in another, 100 sessions of Azure or 100 sessions of Exchange or just Microsoft 365? So you want to, if you've, watched some of the Ignite sessions from previous years, home in on those, speakers or presenters that you are, quite interested in seeing those sessions live. This year, almost all the sessions are going to be recorded and streamed, so you'll be able to see those after the fact. I like to spend most of the time in the Microsoft booth, so I am scheduled there, I think, Monday and Wednesday. I think the best session is right after the keynotes on Monday, is to go right to the Microsoft booths and hammer everyone about what's been announced and what's coming up. I think that's the best place to gauge the customer feedback from the announcements. But yeah, for the most part, I like to hang out on the Microsoft booth throughout the week. There's a few sessions that I attend. I try and attend some of the 300 and 400 level sessions for Teams. This year, I think right now, 3 out of the 4 400 level sessions are scheduled at the same time on Friday. Previous years, Friday was really a ghost town at Ignite, and I think now they're starting to have so much content that Friday is actually becoming a full day. So I've actually had to reschedule my flights. I won't be able to see all the sessions since they are right now overlapping, but at least I'll get to take a couple more of those sessions in. And yeah, so I think from my aspect, I am going to try what Dino was saying is, try and look at some sessions that are outside your area. So I might attend some Graph sessions, some Azure sessions. But for the most part, once you roll out your schedule and you look at, where the distance of the expo hall is or distance from session to session, you'll find that even if you have everything mapped out, you're not able to hit everything on your list. So, don't kill yourself trying to run from session to session, especially back to back, because you might get to the session that you really want to see and then it's full. So you might have to go to that session a little bit earlier, which means you might have to leave the session a little bit earlier. But yeah, just know that everything's being recorded. So maybe that means spend a little bit more time networking, maybe in the expo hall, talking to vendors, talking to other MVP or talking to MVPs, or checking out sessions that you might not have looked at recorded.
Yeah, and I think just touching on the one point that you had about going to the sessions that you really want to, the nice thing about that is that you have the ability to ask the speaker questions. So you can walk up to the mic, and if you have an issue that you're working through, or something from a planning perspective or whatever they're speaking about, you can get your answers done there. And then usually, if they can't fit it into the session itself, the speakers stick around for a little bit shortly after if you need to chat with them, along with what Michael said, stop by the booth and have your questions answered there, not just the Skype and Teams, just Office 365 in general, whatever track that you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, some of the titles might be misleading, right? So you might read the title, but then you look at who the presenter is, and you're like, okay, this will actually reveal a lot of information that you might not have seen, and you definitely want to be in that session to hear it first and be able to ask questions on.
And you guys just made me remember something really important. If there's a specific session you really want to see, leave early to get there. It's just the logistics again of Ignite are so massive. I've lost track of the number of times I wanted to see a session. By the time I got there, it was either like 5 or 10 minutes already started, or the session was full. So leave early if there's one you really want to see. And I just remember too, I'm guest blogging on a session that I'm really looking forward to on the Friday. It's about managing Microsoft Teams effectively, and it's going to cover all the policies which control which features in Teams are exposed to your users, and granular controls for governance. So
that's a Jamie Stark session, right?
It is, and I'm not 100% sure Jamie will be there because there's some co-presenters. Isabel, can't remember her last name just offhand, but I think there's 2 or 3 presenters, but Jamie's scheduled right now to be one of them.
Yeah. And the schedule is, it can change, right? So make sure you're double checking your schedule builder, and make sure that the sessions haven't been moved, or maybe the presenters have been readjusted based on logistics.
Yeah.
And lastly, if you have an opportunity, check out some of the parties that happen at night. There'll be, I hear there's 1 or 2, so.
There's a couple.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dean.
All right, that's awesome, guys. Really great tips and great things to look forward to. And I look forward to recording our next podcast on site from Ignite. And we'll post that once the recording is complete. So awesome session again tonight, and we'll hopefully you guys will see us at the next one from Ignite.